Hey, Rhonda Rosand here, CPA and Advanced Certified QuickBooks ProAdvisor with New Business Directions. And today I'm here with a video that's going to consolidate my last 3 videos and provide some additional information and some corrected information. We had received guidance from Intuit on how to set up the payroll items to track the COVID-19 sick pay under the Families First Act, the FFCRA. And some of that guidance wasn't quite fleshed out, and we have tested and worked with some of our very good community members to figure out exactly what it's supposed to look like. And so we're here today with this video that will consolidate the last 3 and give you more and correct information on how to create these accounts in your chart of accounts and these items in your payroll items list. So there are 2 accounts that need to be created in your chart of accounts. One is an expense, an other expense, and the other is an other current liability. And there are 5 items to date that need to be created in your payroll items list. And in these payroll items, there are 3 additions, 1 company contribution, and 1 tax. These are to date. There are more coming. Hold on to your hats because this is such a moving target. Let's jump into my QuickBooks file. So I'm going to share with you my QuickBooks file so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about here to add these accounts and everything and these payroll items. The number one thing that you need to make sure that you have done in your integrated desktop payroll, now this is for integrated desktop payroll, it is not QuickBooks Online, it is QuickBooks Desktop. In order to make this work, you have to have the most recent update of the payroll. And under your employee menu down at the very bottom, there's Get Payroll Updates. You're going to want to click on that. You're going to want to make sure that the payroll that you have in your desktop is updated to the most recent release, because this is where Intuit is pushing out all of this information. Once you are sure that you have done that, then we can go to the business of creating these accounts and these items. Starting in the chart of accounts, we're going to create 2 new accounts. In order to create an account in QuickBooks Desktop, you simply go down to Account, up to New, or you can hit Control-N, or you can right-click and go to New. It brings you up to the menu to create a new account. As I mentioned, the first account is an other expense. Both of these types are under here. So under Other Expense, click Continue. The name of this account is going to be COVID-19 expenses. And then I'm going to click Save and New because I want to create another account. And that is going to be an other current liability from the drop-down list. And this is going to be called COVID-19 payroll liabilities. Spell that correctly. And save and close. And now you will notice that you have in your other current liabilities section, and then we have an other expense. So in the other expenses section, we have the COVID expenses, COVID-19 expenses, and up in the current liabilities section, we have the COVID-19 payroll liabilities. That is to create the 2 accounts. Then we want to go to our payroll items list. In lists under payroll items list, this is where we will add those 5 items. Now there are 3 additions, 1 company contribution, and a tax in order to pay this paid leave and sick time. Again, you can go down to payroll item, up to New, or Control-N, or as I like to do, you can go to right-click and New. Every time you add a payroll item, you always please do the custom setup. There are more options in here than in the easy setup. The easy setup won't get you where you need to go for these. In custom setup, we are going to click addition. And the first addition is going to be in order to pay the employee when the employee is out sick for COVID-related illness. And in order to do that, we're going to have an item called COVID-19 employee. And I'm changing these names from what Intuit said because theirs are a real mouthful and don't make sense to most people who are trying to do payroll. So this is COVID-19 employee for when the employee is sick. And I'm going to map this to the COVID-19 expenses that we just created. In here, I'm going to choose, this is national paid leave for the employee out of the drop-down list. And this came in from that update. I said it was so important to make sure that your QuickBooks integrated payroll was updated. If you haven't updated it, this won't be in your list, in your drop-down list. So that's national paid leave employee. Next, these taxes will calculate based on that update. Next, and this one you want to tell it to calculate this item based on quantity. And in the next screen, you're going to tell it what the limits are. There are limits to these amounts that can be paid. And under the employee one, the limit is $5,110 or $511 per day. And this is an annual restart each year type of limit. That concludes addition number one. Again, right click, new, custom setup, next, another addition, next. This here is COVID-19, and we're calling this one family. Can't spell, family sick. And next, and again, we're mapping this to the COVID-19 expense. And again, dropping down, national paid leave, family. And next, taxes are calculated, calculate based on quantity. This one has a limit of $2,000 with an annual restart each year. So there are your two. I'm actually going to edit this payroll item right here, and I'm going to say employee sick. There. So we have the employee sick and we have the family sick, and they are mapped to the COVID-19 expenses, and they have the correct tax tracking type. I'm going to create the third addition. Right click, new, custom setup, next, addition, next. And this one is COVID-19, and it's called childcare. This one, a little bit different, again, mapped to the COVID expenses account. In here, we're going to choose National Paid Leave FMLA. And then next. The taxes are correct. And then on this screen here, this is the National Paid Leave. We're going to choose neither. This is not going to be calculated based on quantity. It's a neither. Then on next, we have a limit of $10,000. Whoops, one more zero there. And this is a one-time limit in the drop-down menu. So this is neither, $10,000, one-time limit, and finish. That is the child care leave portion of the FFCRA, or the Families First Act. Those are the three additions that need to be created in your payroll items list, and those are the three limits that are set up, and these are the three mappings, and they all go to the COVID-19 expenses account. Now this next one is not an addition, it's a company contribution. So again, I'm going to right click, I'm going to choose new, I'm going to go to custom setup, and then I'm going to go to next. And down here, I'm going to select the radio dial button for company contribution. This is for the health insurance that you would pay to your employees who were out sick while this COVID-19 issue is going on. So company contribution, next, and here we're going to call it COVID, oops, keep consistent here, COVID-19 health premium. We'll click next here, and you can enter the agency that you pay this to and the ID number for the agency that you pay this to. And I'm going to change from the guidance that was issued from Intuit on this because it doesn't work. So this one does, and thank you to my community members who have tested this with me and allowed me to play with their live payroll files. This is going to go to the COVID-19 payroll liabilities, and this is going to go to the COVID-19 expenses. Intuit's instructions and guidance have you circling these both through the expense account, and that it doesn't work. This health insurance needs to go to a payroll liabilities account so you can pay it, and the expenses need to go to the expense account. So this is the company contribution portion, and the tax tracking type is National Paid Leave Health. Next, this calculates taxes or no taxes, and then here under the limit, it is again a $10,000 limit, and it is a one-time limit. Finish. It says I can set up my payroll scheduled items for that if I wanted to. So now I have a company contribution type called COVID-19 health premium. One more payroll item to go. Again, right click, new, custom, next. This time, this is an other tax type of payroll item. Next, and it is, you've got to go find this. You've got to search down through the list to find the National Paid Leave Credit, and it starts with an N, but it's at the bottom of the ends. National Paid Leave Credit. Next, and I'm going to call this COVID-19 tax credit. Now there are other tax credits. This is the one on the FFCRA, the Families First Act. This is the tax credit that gets you your money back from the IRS on the sick pay that you pay out. And the name of the agency is going to be the United States Treasury. This one is the one you need to circle. So this COVID-19 expenses, and this is COVID-19 expenses, and this is the one that maps both to the expense accounts, both for the liability and for the expense side of the transaction. We'll click next, and it warns you that you're circling the transaction, and yes, you do. It tells you the tax tracking types and finish. So now you have your 3 additions, and you have your one company contribution, and now you also have your tax credit. I'm going to take this video a little bit further and show you what it looks like when you process the payroll and where you have to go for workflow to find out what your tax credit is. I have created in my employee center a test employee to run a payroll for. We're going to run a payroll. We're going to go to the payroll, and we're going to run an unscheduled payroll just so you can see what happens when you use these items and how you use these items. So on my test employee, I'm going to select this. My check date I've got here for the 23rd. That's important to remember when we're running our reports to see what happened with this. So I'm going to open the paycheck detail for my test employee, and I'm going to drop down here into the other payroll items. This is not an earnings. These were the additions that we created. So if we're going to pay the employee for being out sick, and we're going to pay them their 100% of their rate if it's the employee sick, if it's a family member sick, it's 2/3 of their rate, and if it's the child care, it's 2/3 of their rate with the maximums. You really need to read the Families First Act so you understand exactly what you'll be paying these people, because you need to go outside and do the math before you come in here to type in what it is that you're doing. So again, with an employee sick, It's their regular hourly rate for up to 80 hours, and we're just going to do 1 day to show how it works. This is the employee being sick at a rate of $25 an hour for a quantity of 8 hours. And then while we're here, we're just going to do the health premium here, and let's say it's $100 for the pay period. You cannot use the company contribution of health premium if you do not have an addition here to have payroll. Tested it every way I know which way, and if you do not have wages earned, then you can't have the health insurance premium here. So I've done both of them together, and I'm going to save and close this and process this payroll. I'm going to continue with my test employee. I know that time data has not been entered. I only entered the gross pay for 8 hours and the $100 health premium. I'm going to create the paycheck, and then I'm going to close this, and I'm going to show you what happened in our chart of accounts under the account. So in the COVID-19 payroll liabilities, if I right click and go to payroll liabilities, I have this $100 from this paycheck that is due to my health insurance company in the payroll liabilities account. And if I go over to my COVID-19 expenses in my other expenses section, and I right click on that and I do a quick report, I can see that I have $200 for payroll that's reimbursable through payroll taxes, as well as the $100 for the health premium. So I have a total available credit of $300. Now, when I go to pay these liabilities to the IRS for this, I can go into my employees, down to payroll taxes and liabilities, and over to create a custom liability payment. And I want to do this, again, I said the date was important earlier for the date of the paycheck. I'm just going to pull up 2020, 4/23/2020, the payroll liabilities for that date of that test paycheck that I just created for my test employee. I have the $100 due to Harvard Pilgrim, and I have my employment taxes here that are due. So on my Medicare and my Social Security and my federal withholding taxes that were created based on that $200 paycheck, I owe $28.80 to the government. In order to take my credit, I need to create a payroll liability check for this. And I'm going to do this as of the 23rd also, so that it matches the date of my check. I'm going to pay these taxes with my credit. I'm not going to send a check in. I'm going to pay these taxes with my credit. So here, I am going to create the payroll liability check to the United States Treasury with the number that comes up. And I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the check. And I'm going to type in my tax credit. And I'm going to put a subtraction for the $28.20 so that my net check to the IRS is 0. I've utilized the taxes and the tax credit. And when I save this and I go back to my report, I can see that I now have a remaining credit from the IRS of $271.20. First the payroll, then the health premium that was paid by the employer, and then the application of the taxes to this account. We still have our $100 sitting in our payroll liabilities because we haven't paid Harvard Pilgrim for the health premium. And that is the same process under employees, under the payroll taxes and liabilities, creating a custom liability payment for the 04/23/20 date. You will see that in here we also have the health premium to Harvard Pilgrim. When I create this payment, again, I'm going to change it to the 04/23/20 date just to keep everything in sync here. create that, and I have a check to Harvard Pilgrim for the $100. I apply it to the health premium, which is mapped back to the liability account. So now you can see that when I put the $100 on the employee record, it increased the payroll liability. And when I paid Harvard Pilgrim, it decreased the liability to Harvard Pilgrim. And in my expense summary, I have the remaining balance of my tax credit. This is heavy duty stuff. This is not your everyday QuickBooks. So adding an account in your chart of accounts for the COVID-19 expenses and adding another current liability for payroll liabilities, that works. This payroll item setup is more advanced. It's more complicated. And I'm surprised it wasn't something that was done automatically for us, but we have to create these items in order to pay our employees for any time that they are out sick for themselves or for their families or for taking care of their children and paying their health insurance premiums while they're out. That concludes today's video. I'm sure that there will be questions in the YouTube channel and in the LinkedIn. Please send me your emails. I will do my best to answer your questions. Consult with your accountants. Your accountants need to understand this information. I'm sure that they do. And I want to make sure that your books and records are clean and spotless. If you have any questions about QuickBooks or need assistance, please start with our website at newbusinessdirections.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our blog there. There are several videos on this COVID-19. This one I'm hoping is the most comprehensive and the most accurate. If you need help organizing your chaos or streamlining the process, it's okay, we can help. Stay safe and stay healthy.